Hey everyone, welcome to match day 10. So we did pick up a win yesterday. We played quote unquote perfect defense. We found both the 2 and the 3 for our opponent in our main rundle. Did as we had feared, lost to or pick up a tie with Andy Kravitz. So we are a decent bit behind Troy Meyer there in Rundle Mania. But the good news is we're in a sort of 4-way tie for first de facto. I mean, we do have worse MPD than the person ahead of us, but might emerge from that. So a couple wins makes a big difference. Calling attention to the fact that, we're currently having a good season. I guess we've been more fortunate than some of the other high scorers here, so I will take it. I'll take that 828 defensive efficiency as well. I don't know if my defense has improved a little bit since I started doing the videos. I know I've been more intentional about it. So anyway, match day 10 for the questions. All right. Question 1. While they were longtime friends, having originally met in 1967, the first formal feature film collaboration between George Lucas and Steven Spielberg occurred in 1981 with what film? I guess that it was the first. Certainly the 1981 helps. If it had just said occurred with what film, I might have been less certain, but in 1981 they made Raiders of the Lost Ark. Can you imagine that? Like, Harrison Ford was in Star Wars films already, and then, Empire had just come out in 1980, household name by that point, and then Raiders of the Lost Ark comes out. It's like Chris Pratt being in Guardians of the Galaxy and Jurassic World, except even more so, I think, because these were like the biggest movies, kind of undeniably at the time. So yeah, congratulations to Mr. Ford on his excellent performances in those movies. But yeah, Raiders of the Lost Ark is right. Feels like most people would kind of know that. I can auto-zero that for Horowitz because it's like right in his wheelhouse, kind of a not super difficult movie question. He's really good at pop culture. Among the various types of crosses are the Greek cross, the Latin cross, the Maltese cross, St. Andrew's cross, the Papal cross, and the Philpott, Tetraskelion, or Gamadian cross, composed of 4 Greek capital gammas radiating from a center. This latter cross is best known by what term? So Greek capital gamma looks like you took the capital letter L and just flipped it over. So it's basically like the left hand side and the top of a square is probably the best way to put it. And if you take 4 of those and have them radiating from a center, what does that look like? Yeah, that. The swastika. I don't guess that I thought of that as a type of cross. Like, I don't know that it was used as a Christian cross. I'm interested in looking that up afterwards, but for whatever reason, I think I've heard of tetraskelion as the generic term for a swastika. I think swastika is from maybe the Sanskrit word for that symbol too. But certainly the 4 capital gamma is a helpful clue. Left out a couple things. I imagine some people might say Celtic cross, or there's a few others that might be sitting out there just to say if you were unsure. So that was certainly an interesting one. Anyway, question 3. What is the common name for the sulfate mineral that ranks 2 on the Mohs hardness scale and is composed of hydrous calcium sulfate? With a formula. Alabaster is a fine-grained version what used for sculpture and ornamental work, and plaster of Paris is a roasted version used for casting molds. Okay, well, I know that plaster of Paris is made from gypsum. I also know that number 2 on the Mohs hardness scale is gypsum. I did know that when I was on 500 questions. That didn't mean I said it, which would have saved me a wrong. That ended up being the first wrong I got in my series of 3 that I missed to go out. I've explained to people I think it would not have saved me if I had gotten it right, because the same pattern would have happened afterwards, because I would have stuck with gems and minerals, I think. Although that may have been the last one. I don't remember. But anyway, Still feeling bad about missing that Mohs scale question when I could have just said gypsum. Yeah, probably the keeper of the day is that plaster of Paris and alabaster are types of gypsum. The reason to keep that is because even if people aren't asking about it because of the Mohs scale, sometimes, or asking clues about it that deal with the Mohs scale is the sort of thing people will look up when they want to write geology questions, or just kind of, rocks and minerals questions. They will tend to look up, oh yeah, the Mohs scale. Let's ask about one of the things on the Mohs scale, just because it's like a common source. It falls into that category of birthstones. People who don't have like massive reserves of information about geology tend to sometimes rely on this kind of thing, and that I do too, because I don't know that much about geology. This also happens with astronomy. So, like constellations, alpha stars, like that's like most people who are astronomers don't care, probably don't always know them. But it's the sort of thing that makes good trivia fodder, and you can just like act like, oh yeah, that's something about science, Anyway, question 4. Among the more prominent differences between American and Canadian football is the size of the field of play. How long in yards is the field of play in Canadian football, measured from goal line to goal line, thus not including end zones? Okay. That is 110 yards. 110. 10 extra yards, 55 is the middle of the field, but end zones are also longer, maybe 20 yards deep. I know that they're longer, it might be 15. I haven't watched a lot of Canadian football because I'm a sports guy. This is the sort of thing that tends to come up, so that's the only reason I know. Okay. Question 5. Bavette, Bucatini, Conciglie, Gemelli, and Lumache or Cioccola are different variations of what? Well, Gemelli is a noodle, is a pasta, right? And I think I've heard of Bucatini before too. Gemelli for sure, though. Like I think those are like twisted, like two kind of strands twisted around each other. Spiral kind of deal. Yeah, that's a kind of pasta. This is one of these where all you have to do is actually know one of them. And it's the sort of thing like conciliere sounds like it might mean like little shells or little, that kind of thing. There's about 100 and some different kinds of named pasta. And Gemelli is one of them. If you see a list of things with Italian names, probably guess pasta. Okay, question 6. The 1836 Battle of San Jacinto was a very brief, pivotal engagement that led directly to independence for what republic that is, Texas. Yeah, Sam Houston beat Santa Anna, weakened army from the Alamo at Battle of San Jacinto, and then Texas became free. It became a separate republic. Yeah, used to live in Houston. San Jacinto Monument is near there. Should I say that's pretty easy too. Feel like the pasta is very guessable. Then we get to some slightly harder stuff. I feel like Jeremy's going to know swastika. I feel like he's only guessing Canadian football. So we're going to put the 2 there and then maybe the 3 on gypsum. Are you the sort? I mean, he knows science pretty well. Maybe that's a 2 and this is a 3. Really, I'm 100% sure I have all these, unless bucatini is also a pasta, right? I'm sure that these are pastas. Like Gemelli could obviously mean 2 things, but that's what I'm going with. So yeah, I feel okay about that. Okay, let's look at my other opponent, Kossoff's scores. 850 on film. All right, that's fine. Here's the Lost Ark 1981. It's the correct thing to guess, even if you don't know it. So she is also a LA person. They tend to know film well. That is one thing I've noticed. Like here in North Carolina, people tend to know more about college basketball, and in LA, all the people I've met from LA know, seems like more than average about movies, just because it's part of the currency out there. I think it's part of the culture that you talk about. That might be completely absurd thing to say, but it feels that way. It feels like people know people who work in the movies and stuff like that. So. All right. Too much to go on. The swastika question. But to it there. Okay, the 60% on science makes me feel like I can stick gypsum there. Like gypsum is not a particularly interesting thing, so it's not something that would stick with people. She's also not super great at sports, so we'll give the 2 there. There's other things to say besides 110. I feel like people, if they're going to say, oh, it's longer, if they're going to say, oh, it's longer, they might go 120 instead of 110, just because it feels like a more round number for some reason. But food knowledge is 76%. I feel pretty good about putting a 1 there, and I think I just have a 1 left. Texas, I think this is a well-known historical fact, and 1836 is on there, and what republic is on there, and it makes a lot of sense. So, yep. And Raiders, swastika, gypsum, 110, pasta, and Texas. Okay, sweet. So we got there. Hopefully our opponents will somehow find a way to stumble. You know, they may not. Both may get all 6 of those. It's very possible. But we can only do what we can. All right. Well, we'll see you all on Thursday tomorrow. Thanks for watching.